Good afternoon on today's Angry Bulletin. As the hard-working crews at Boca Chica continue laboring on S-22, the HLS prototype, and also prepare for a B-9 static fire, at least at the time that I'm recording this, SpaceX prepares to weather yet another legal attack, and this time not from a group of environmental activists, but from the U.S. government and the Department of Justice. All of this and more coming at you on the Angry Astronaut right now. Good afternoon, and once again, welcome to the Angry Astronaut. As is the case most of the time, I wasn't intending to release a bulletin today, was instead going to try to get some more work done around here and finally clean this house out. As you can see, virtually nothing left in this room, but still a lot of work yet to be done. All of that having been said, though, it is incredibly important that we keep up with big events in spaceflight, and sadly, we have a pretty negative event happening right now, and that is another lawsuit against SpaceX, except this time, it is the U.S. government and the Department of Justice that has issued this lawsuit. But why? I mean, how could SpaceX have made such a simple mistake in regards to employment eligibility? How could they have excluded people simply on the basis of their nation of origin when they didn't have to do it? Wouldn't they want talented people from all over the world, assuming that they were permitted to hire those people? Well, all of us tended to believe, given what we were told over the years, that ITAR restrictions and the fact that SpaceX handles so many military contracts prevented them from hiring anybody who wasn't a U.S. citizen. But according to the Department of Justice, that's not the case, and it could lead to a lot of other legal trouble for SpaceX in the future. And by the way, while I'm reading these excerpts from the Department of Justice press release, enjoy these clips from Starbase provided by Lab Padre. And by the way, if you want to hear what's actually going on in these clips, well, you need to head over to their channel, so I have it linked in the description. Please do that and also subscribe and support Lab Padre. Okay, let's move on. Quote, the Justice Department filed a lawsuit today against Space Exploration Technologies for discriminating against asylees and refugees in hiring. The lawsuit alleges that from at least September 2018 to May of 2022, SpaceX routinely discouraged asylees and refugees from applying and refused to hire or consider them because of their citizenship status in violation of the Immigration and Nationality Act. Now, this should come as a surprise to no one. If someone's a refugee or someone seeking asylum and doesn't have a green card yet, it seems to me that they shouldn't be eligible for employment with a company that's working on highly sensitive security issues. However, SpaceX is a giant corporation, and it's very possible that other jobs within the corporation that have nothing to do with these contracts might actually be an eligible job for these people to apply to. At least according to the press release, that seems to be the case. Quote, in job postings and public statements over several years, SpaceX wrongly claimed that under federal regulations known as export control laws, SpaceX could hire only U.S. citizens and lawful permanent residents, sometimes referred to as green card holders. Export control laws impose no such hiring restrictions. Moreover, asylees and refugees' permission to live and work in the United States does not expire, and they stand on equal footing with U.S. citizens and lawful permanent residents under export control laws. Under these laws, companies like SpaceX can hire asylees and refugees for the same positions they would hire U.S. citizens and lawful permanent residents. And once hired, asylees and refugees can access export-controlled information and materials without additional government approval, just like U.S. citizens and lawful permanent residents. Once again, this is straight from the Department of Justice website. It's a little surprising to me, but apparently totally legal. Now, Assistant Attorney General Kristen Clark of the Justice Department's Civil Rights Division had this to say, quote, "Our investigation found that SpaceX failed to fairly consider or hire asylees and refugees because of their citizenship status and imposed what amounted to a ban on their hire regardless of their qualification in violation of federal law. Our investigation also found that SpaceX recruiters and high-level officials took actions that actively discouraged asylees and refugees from seeking work opportunities at the company. Asylees and refugees have overcome many obstacles in their lives, and unlawful employment discrimination based on their citizenship status should not be one of them. Through this lawsuit, we will hold SpaceX accountable for its illegal employment practices and seek relief that allows asylees and refugees to fairly compete for job opportunities and contribute their talents to SpaceX's workforce," unquote. Now, according to the DOJ, SpaceX did the following. Quote, "SpaceX discouraged asylees and refugees from applying for open positions through public announcements, job applications, and other online recruiting communications that excluded asylees and refugees. SpaceX also failed to fairly consider applications submitted by asylees and refugees. SpaceX also refused to hire qualified asylee and refugee applicants and repeatedly rejected asylee and refugee applicants because of their citizenship status. And finally, SpaceX hired only U.S. citizens and lawful permanent residents from September 2018 to September of 2020. The DOJ also points out, quote, that SpaceX recruits and hires for a variety of positions, including welders, cooks, crane operators, baristas, and dishwashers, as well as information technology specialists, software engineers, business analysts, rocket engineers, and marketing professionals. The jobs at issue in the lawsuit are not limited to those that require advanced degrees. And finally, the DOJ press release provides information as to why these migrants are eligible for these jobs in the first place. Quote, "Asylees and refugees are migrants to the United States who have fled persecution. To obtain their status, they undergo thorough vetting by the United States government. Under the INA, employers cannot discriminate against them in hiring unless a law, regulation, executive order, or government contract requires the employer to do so. In this instance, no law, regulation, executive order, or government contract required or permitted SpaceX to engage in the widespread discrimination against asylees or refugees that the department's investigation found." And then at the end of the press release, the Department of Justice proceeds to open a gigantic can of worms. Quote, "Please contact the Department's Civil Rights Division Immigrant and Employee Rights section if you are or were an asylee or refugee who experienced any one of the following at any point in time. Number one, you were applied to a job at SpaceX and were rejected. Number two, you were discouraged from applying to SpaceX because you were not a U.S. citizen or lawful permanent resident. Number three, a recruiter or other SpaceX employee told you that SpaceX could only hire U.S. citizens and or lawful permanent residents. What this does is open up a gigantic opportunity for these people to file a huge class action lawsuit against SpaceX that could likely take years and years and gobble up millions of dollars. This will probably have no impact on SpaceX's current application with the FAA, and hopefully not their relationship with the FAA either, unless there are FAA officials who feel strongly about this personally. However, it could have a significant impact in other regards as far as SpaceX's relationship with the government and the military is concerned. If SpaceX has been consistently violating U.S. employment laws over the last several years, that makes it very difficult for the military to justify awarding them any future contracts. It may even endanger the contracts that NASA has with them currently. Keep in mind, SpaceX receives billions and billions of dollars from the U.S. government for a variety of contracts, both in terms of the military and in terms of NASA contracts. If they have been violating federal laws all this time, that could, in theory, put current and future contracts in jeopardy, depending, of course, on how serious these violations actually are. The problem is, just like any other government contractor, SpaceX is very subject to the government's whims and requirements when it comes to their business practices, hiring practices, or just about anything else. The government has always felt that if you're going to be taking piles of government money, especially if we're talking about billions of dollars here, then you sure as hell better comply with our regulations. But here's the big and obvious question. Is SpaceX actually violating government regulations here? Or are they subject to ITAR requirements that are far more strict than the DOJ is suggesting at the moment? That is the $10 million question, or perhaps the $4 billion question, depending on what contract you're talking about here. And it is going to be a very important legal consideration when this actually goes to court. The problem is the DOJ has a tremendous amount of power, and if they are being weaponized for whatever political reasons the administration might have to attack Elon Musk, although that seems a bit self-destructive given how important SpaceX is to the future of Artemis and all of our ambitions in space, well, they could make life very difficult indeed for Elon Musk, SpaceX, and spaceflight in general. As far as my personal opinions are concerned, I hope SpaceX has a strong legal leg to stand on. But if they don't, then the people who have been applying for these jobs, well, they have a legitimate gripe. So we have to see what's going to happen with this case in the future. I'm not an attorney, so I'm not going to make any judgments as to just how valid the DOJ's case is. All I can say is I will keep you up to date. Please like, please subscribe. It's very important to the success of this channel. And also please check the description for more details about my upcoming tour. And as always, stay angry about space.